make yourself more than just a man. If you devote yourself to an ideal, then you become something else entirely.
Hello everyone, I am here over at the Batcave and we are going to discuss the Ironheart armors due to the fact that a few days ago there was a set photo where we saw an Ironheart armor. Now, before we actually get into the full discussion from this Ironheart suit, the set photo suit, and the other Ironheart suits that may exist, we have to actually get a clear identification marking. Now, I know Iron Man uses the Mark 1 armor, Mark 2 armor, Mark 3 armor. War Machine actually uses the identification of 001, 002, 003, 004, and so on. With Ironheart, in order to make sure there's no confusion, I am actually just going to call this IH1, then there'll be IH2, IH3, IH4. Now, how many IH suits will be discussing? We will be showing the two known, but we will be discussing 4. IH1, IH2, IH3, and IH4. So let's start with IH1, and we'll start from the top. And at the top you have the, oh, sorry, I skipped a little ahead. Let's talk about where this figure came from. This figure was shown at Comic-Con, and it was for Wakanda Forever, the movie. And we know from the Wakanda Forever trailer that Ironheart is in the movie. And now let's get back to the breakdown of the armor. As we start from the top, we see a headset. Now I'm thinking this headset actually is not a communication device due to the fact that there is no mic attached. I could be wrong, but for now I'm gonna assume it's really just to block out noise from the engines that she has on the armor. And then we go to the front. She looks to appear to have skydiving goggles, and I think that's to block out some foreign object debris so it doesn't get into her eyes. And both the things, the goggles and the headset, are really just their traditional technology, because I really don't think that the goggles have a head-up display. They might, but I honestly assume that they don't. And now let's move on to lower than that, and we see metal that is colored yellow and black. That is construction material, at least to my knowledge. So she most likely got that from a construction site, or she actually knew someone who somehow had their hands on construction technology. And what further convinces me about it being construction technology is the U-shaped bar below it. That again looks like construction technology. And she has a wrapped in red, orange ropes. Now let's move on to the side. The sides. We actually see what appears to be shoulder pads, but with this pop Funko on the pose, it's hard to tell. So that may be just armor for the side of the arm, or just shoulders. But again, it's really nowhere advanced as Tony Stark's, and it's actually not supposed to be, if she is just starting out. And we move slightly below that where we see the arc reactor, or at least what we assume at first glance as an arc reactor. Now, I do not think this is an arc reactor, since she is a Wakanda Forever. This may be a Wakandan energy that she is using, rather than the palladium. Is it palladium that Iron Man uses? We do see that it is in the shape of a heart, because, well, she's called Ironheart. But then if you look closer to the center, it's actually another heart. what was originally a diamond shape, but then she cut the upside down triangle to make sure it does look like a heart. Now that arc reactor is connected to the next topic we will be discussing, and that is the cannon. Now you will see a running theme in her armors, or at least IH1 and IH3. Her primary weapon is always on the right side, and in this case it is a cannon with a 3-finger claw at the end. You see the yellow energy tube connected from the arc reactor to the cannon, and that is how she will not only power the cannon, but also the thrusters. Now, do notice that the arc reactor is only connected to the cannon itself, which means something else is powering the rest of the suit, and it is not the arc reactor. Let's move on slightly near it, and that will be the stomach region, I suppose. And that's where she again uses your traditional technology that she found rather than advanced stuff like Tony Stark, because majority of it is just rope and metal, and that actually might also be skydiver equipment. So there isn't much to discuss regarding that. And now the left arm. The left arm is actually where she has the control stick to control her vector. Now, this is similar but different from Tony Stark's, because she is using a lever / joystick in order to control her movement. I see no other weapons or functions on that wrist, but again, this is just a pop Funko and not a detailed review. Now, Tony Stark in the first movie, he had 2 control sticks, and those were only to turn on the thrusters and turn off the thrusters. He actually was using Jarvis to control the percentage of thrust. Now, when he clicked both the boots activated, and he slammed into the wall, which made him think, I need a new way. Ironheart's suit here, or at least Ironheart, may run into a similar problem where she either ends up using too much thrust, too little thrust, or wants to turn a certain way only for the suit to turn another way, and she may have a scene where she ends up just crashing into the ground, or at least into a wall, because she needs a better way to control the suit's vector. Now we move on down to the bottom, and at first the clear thing you see is the gray that isn't really armor. It looks honestly like steel or aluminum, and that is something that a lot of people can get their hands on, which means this is another homemade item, if you will, that she has. Now, she did add some armor to the top, but that with the red and the yellow with gray, but I think that is just the part that is for the boosters. And she has obviously the boosters on the side and nothing else. Actually, looking at this image, I cannot think of anything else. So that is a full breakdown of IH1. Now, I do not have an image of IH2, and the reason I am saying I do not have an image of IH2 rather than showing you an image of the set photo leak is because from an engineering standpoint, you cannot go from this suit, which is barely armored and really is designed to test your recent technology made, aka our boosters, being able to fly an arc reactor and a cannon. You cannot go from this to the big bulky armor you see in the set photo leaks. So IH2, that really has to be an unknown. Now I do have a theory as to what IH2 could look like. I think IH2 will actually be armored, well, have armor a decent amount compared to this, and a helmet, because she now has just what she needs to, a primary weapon, boosters, an arc reactor, and she wants to get that into armor. Now it will look pretty much like a junkyard armor, maybe a little with some advanced technology, a junkyard armor, arc reactor. She have a helmet, it will not look like Iron Man helmet, and her cannon will be possibly smaller and not as big and bulky as you see it here. Now, going by the theme, she starts out with something that's not Iron Man like, and something that's armored but not Iron Man like, because IH3, that one has some Iron Man appearance looks, but majority of it is not. So this again, IH1, IH2 is unknown, and I think IH2 will actually be what she uses for majority of Ironheart. And we will see IH3 obviously like the set photos as a final episode suit. Just like how we've seen with other Disney Plus shows, we've seen Falcon go from his normal suit then the Captain America suit. We have seen Kate Bishop's Hawkeye go from her sweater suit to an actual Hawkeye themed suit, and it's a reoccurring theme with Disney Plus shows. So, and since Ironheart is a Disney Plus show, it will go follow that theme. IH1, Wakanda Forever, IH2 for majority of Ironheart, and the IH3, which is coming up, will be the final episode suit. The image you see on screen is of IH3, but I found this image on Reddit, and like I said earlier, explaining why I think this sub-photo one is IH3 and IH2, I do not think this is from Black Panther Wakanda Forever. This has to be from Ironheart, because this has to be IH3. So I'm not actually gonna even use this image to break down the suit. I am gonna be using a different image to break down the suit. So let's start the breakdown of the suit with this image. Now, yes, I am starting with something small, and then we'll lead up to the full suit reveal and its breakdown. But what I want to point out specifically in this image is look at her pose. Look at the way she's landing. It's similar to how Iron Man lands. You see the way her hands are pointed that way. It's almost as if there's thrust coming out of the hands, just like Iron Man. Which means this IH3, unlike IH1, uses actual Iron Man style boosters and not a engine attached to the side. So that's really all I want to talk about in regards to this image, because that's the most notable thing. So let's move on to the next image. This is a shot of the back of the armor rather than the front, and I want you to pay attention to the bar at the top and the back of the head. Now, what does that look like to you? What in real life does that resemble? Or at least make you think of? I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. a deep sea diver suit. IH-1 is based off of a deep sea diver suit, or uses the technology of a deep sea diver suit. You see, she's got two tubes. She's got almost like an air duct, but it's really the back of the head and the metal bar at top that makes me think it, or IH-3 is deep sea diver tech. And again, like the previous image, it's just something small I wanted to discuss or point out. Now let's actually get into the full reveal of the suit and full breakdown of the suit. Here's the full image of the suit, and yes, there is a lot to cover. Now, at first glance, you're probably just gonna be thinking, man, this suit sucks. It's like not even Iron Man, like nowhere near as cool as the Iron Man War Machine suit. Now, if you're thinking of that, then you have to understand the journey of the IH suits. We talked about IH-1, we talked about what IH-2 will look like, and this is IH-3. And yeah, it does, just like the previous suits, it does look like there's a bunch of technology that she was able to get her hands on and put it all together into a suit. Now, the head. If you look closer, you do see the Iron Man style eyes, Iron Man style face plate, and that is to show that she is getting closer in terms of armor journey to the comic suit, and I will discuss which IH armor would be the comic suit. Would it be an IH-4? Would it be an IH-5, IH-6? But this one actually gets closer to looking like Iron Man than any of the previous suits have. You have I want to say a see-through in the mouth region. I don't know why that is. And let's move on to slightly below that now. My friend did say that it honestly reminds him of a Halo Mjolnir armor. And honestly, I have to agree with him there. It does look like the artist or 3D modeler who made this suit had a little inspiration from Halo. And we will move on to the right side, where you have our weapon stations. Like IH-1, her primary weapons are on the right side. You see a shoulder-mounted, I want to say this shoulder-mounted energy weapon, due to the fact that there is also a tube running down to her wrist-mounted cannon. And I think she may have gotten inspiration from War Machine on that, or that is actually linked to her head-up display, so she can have specific targeting, unlike the wrist-mounted cannon, which she has to think how to aim it and move it with the arm. Sorry about that there, my hand hit the mic. Anyways, then we move on to the wrist-mounted cannon. And I think that is cannon. It honestly could be a flamethrower, but most likely a wrist cannon. And we go back up to the top and to the left side. Again, the like I previously mentioned, the scuba gear tubes. You see that thing going on there again, and it looks very junkyardish, which means she took scuba gear and a couple of other things in order to make that shoulder pad. And below that, we see that her arm, that area of the left arm, looks different from the right side. And that actually may be a recurring theme, again, due to the fact that her weapon station is on the right arm. And honestly, judging by the size, just the size of that area, they could add some CGI to where it folds outward into a shield. That honestly would be a cool feature to have for the Ironheart, where her shield is always on the left side and her weapon of choice is always on the right side. Let's move back to the main center area of the body. I want you to look on the left side. You see almost a black object with, it looks like there's a mirror in it. That looks like scuba gear equipment again. And slightly below that you have your area of the stomach, so she can actually twist and turn the armor and bend. And she needs to look down. And there isn't really much going on there aside from the fact that it looks very, so I want to say like junkyardish again, because this is like nowhere near Iron Man technology. And then normally I would actually just break down the bottom half as usual, but the sides of the leg, both sides of the leg look different. So let's actually start with the right leg. Now the right leg again looks very junkyardish. You see that she has multiple layers. You see the black portion, that's the inner layer, and then she got the grayish area, that's the outer layer. And towards the bottom of that right leg, it gets very junkyardish. Now, judging by the actual suit size, I want to say her actual foot is not where the foot of the armor is. At the so you have two bars. You see two bars, and slightly below that bar, you see these metal plates with two holes in it. I believe that area is actually where her foot is. I think that's where her foot is, and under that is actually just gears that are connected to her foot area, so the suit's foot knows how to turn. And now, since we broke the very junkyard side, aka the right leg, let's move on to the other leg. Now that leg, area of her leg, I think, or the armor's leg, was made before, because it looked like the right leg is, because she ran out of material. And that one looks closer to an Iron Man style leg than we have, because you actually see the way the bottom half of the leg curves, that it's similar to Iron Man's suit, and you see that the knee pad is as well. I don't think there's any weapons or anything going on there. It really is just the armored leg, and then you got the feet there. Now, I'm trying to think if there are any last minute things I need to cover about the armor, and really, they are not. For Ironheart's armor journey is actually a nice thing. Now, before we get into what IH4 will be and how she gets it, we have to discuss the height of the suit. Now, after this Ironheart series, I do believe that she's going to appear in Armor Wars, or maybe in a few days we actually get an image where we see Rhodey appear, or in a War Machine of Armor appear, to talk to Ironheart about, you have stolen Tony Stark technology. The Department of Damage Control is also hunting down this technology. It's best if you just hand that technology over to me. And it's similar to how we saw in Hawkeye, where Hawkeye said, "Okay, Bishop, hand over the Ronin suit. I'm gonna need you to hand over the stuff, and then we're gonna go on the way." But like we saw in Hawkeye, that did not happen. They actually didn't like each other at first, and then started to get along. And that is what I think will happen not only at the end, but throughout Armor Wars. The Rhodey's gonna want their technology from Ironheart, but she's gonna try to convince him to let her keep it. But the thing we saw about Rhodey at the end of Avengers Endgame is that his suits are much bigger than any previous War Machine armor. I talk about the final battle suit, the Iron Patriot colored one. So having a War Machine that's big, tall, and bulky next to little tiny Ironheart, it would not make sense. So when Marvel told the art designer to make the suit, they said make sure it's big and bulky. That way there isn't any awkwardness between height of Ironheart talking to Rhodey while it is in armor, because if she had a small Ironheart would be looking at the chest of the War Machine armor and would have to turn her head up a lot in order to even look at Don Cheadle, aka Rhodey. So that's why this armor is this size. You have to note that. And this armor, considering that it appears basically at the end of Ironheart IH3, will continue in Armor Wars alongside War Machine, and they will hunt down Tony Stark technology. And it will be in the final episode that Rhodey trusts Ironheart enough to let her use Tony Stark technology. And it is that she will use to make IH4. Now, IH4 will be close, if not the suit that you're familiar with in the comics. You will get a legit Ironheart suit in the final episode of Armor Wars. So, to summarize everything, because we're nearing the end of the video, IH1 is in Wakanda forever. IH2 we have not seen, but is in most episodes of Ironheart. IH3, like you still see on screen, is in the final episode of Ironheart, and IH4 will be in Armor Wars.
Time changes nearly everything, but the mission and the legend of the Batman lives on.